Mauli has joined us. So what we are discussing is spot on, and that is, well, first of all, welcome, welcome, brother Pigeon, brother Mauli, welcome to the Saturday Consensus Study class. On Thursdays, we normally discuss philosophy and ideology and its application to the African Revolution. And by the African Revolution, we mean the Pan-African position, not the liberal or conservative kind, but the liberal kind, which is the welfare of the people being the supreme law. And that is the heart of the African Revolution as far as radical Pan-Africanists are concerned. And the work that is required philosophically and ideologically in order to achieve that is what Nkrumah has summarized into his book, Consensusism. So on Thursday, we meet and discuss the book, and we discuss the philosophy, the ideology. We are currently on chapter 1, which is philosophy in retrospect. And so we discuss its application to Africa. On Saturdays, like we are meeting today, we discuss, we have a general conversation around the unification. That's the total unification, liberation, and development of Africa. And the reason we are having this conversation is that Africans are not meeting enough to discuss unification, liberation, development. And not enough meetings are going on. Not enough basics are being done. And one of the basics is to be able to just meet and talk. And meeting and talking is crucial to the work that we need to do. You know, it's like friends meeting in a public space, maybe say a drinking spot or a restaurant or a party or a pub, a kind of social space, and just talking about the needs of life. That's very important. So the talking, or even meeting in a mosque or the church or the shrine, wherever you want to meet, and then talking about what is needed. Now that conversation is crucial. And so the purpose of this Saturday class is to initiate the conversation around African unification. So thank you all for coming, Brother Pigeon, Brother Mauli, and myself. So the floor is open. Let's have an open discussion, and yeah, let's just have a conversation around the unification of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Brother Pigeon and I were discussing the basics. Brother Pigeon, what were you saying about the basics?
I said that, thank you, Brother Kwame, and thank you, Brother Morin, and all the comrades who are listening to us now, who will be listening to this recording. I was saying that, you see, we set up a class like consciousness study class, so that the people could study the philosophy and ideology that was already laid down with a plan towards decolonizing Africa. But the question is,
Brother Pigeon, your voice is quite far away.
Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Am I better?
Yeah, yes, you are quite better now.
Okay, I'm saying the problem has become one, that even after setting such a class there, people can read and study the direction that was actually proposed for the liberation of Africa. How many people commit that time? It's only 2 hours in a day, in a week, a whole week, for us to actually discuss the direction for the continent. But we don't. But we meet every day. The idealists meet every day in churches, offer even sacrifices and tithes, just to prepare to go to heaven. And they've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. But we who want to liberate Africa can never even spend time to even meet on a WhatsApp or a Zoom just to discuss this. We don't even meet like those who want to go to heaven meet every day, every Sunday. When was the last time did we even have a physical, radical Pan-African conference or meeting in Africa? When? But today, we can spend our data, we can spend everything to watch TikTok, to go to YouTube, to watch Palestine attacking Israel, to comment, to lamentate, to watch Al Jazeera and BBC, to stream Netflix and watch movies. but we can never spend even hours to liberate Africa. Now, we've been having the talks. People say, yeah, let's Africa liberate, let's travel. But how? If you cannot even spend the basics. Because if you cannot spend the basics, sacrifice the basics, and study and learn, because even many people don't study. We don't even study the books that were written before. We just want to, yes, let's liberate them. But how do we understand the enemy if we don't spend much time to study the enemy? That's why we'll go in the field and fail. Many people, like the revolution in Zimbabwe, failed. Yes, Mugabe was out, but what happened? People are suffering today. In Sudan, people were out, but what happened? People are suffering today. Because they never took time to study and learn the new colonialists. They only thought that, yes, by voting the next person, we have achieved the revolution. In Kenya, people turn out to vote William Ruto. They thought, yeah, this is the revolutionary hustler person, poor people, poor person. But because they do not have the inner understanding of what actually takes to have a progressive revolution, today we are stuck again in the same situation. So Africans have been trying, even in those coups that we are now having, the materials turn out to be problems to Africa. Why? Because we have never invested our time to study deeply what our enemy is and how should we attack our enemy. We just think that by going out and say, yes, we are going to win, we are going to take our white man out. How? I've been asking people. Africa today has puppet presidents. How are we going to remove them? How are you going to remove the puppet presidents who are actually the servants and agents of the West? How? By talking, by going in the streets, by voting. What is the best alternative? And this is where actually we need to apply empiricism and rationalism in our understanding. Because empiricism will tell us clearly that out of experience, all that we've been trying has never worked out perfectly. And rationalism will make us apply what is actually necessary, you see. But we don't have this understanding. Even people don't know what is empiricism, what is rationalism, how to apply it in Pan-African context, what is idealism. So you see, we are in a situation whereby we are shouting too much. We are shouting too much for a change, but the end of the day is that we don't know what change we want. We don't know. We don't know what change we want, because even if you say you want Africa to be liberated, how is liberation looking like? What does it take to have liberation? And what does it take at an individual level to see the liberation? These people meet in the United Nations General Meeting, UNGA, like what they met last time.
Brother Pigeon, can I pause you to welcome Nethononda Blessings and Victor Otieno Adia? Welcome. Brother Victor's his connection is not stable. He struggled the last time. I think he's struggling again, but hopefully he can stay with us. His mic is not yet on. Brother Nentononda, Blessings, your mic and video are on. And so welcome you both. So we are discussing, we're having a conversation around, so today is Saturday, and we have conversation around African unification, liberation, and development. So Saturday is a day for just talking amongst ourselves. And talking is good, you see. And but as Brother Pigeon was saying, you know, those who want to go to heaven, they meet every Sunday and they talk amongst themselves. They even hear somebody talk to them. You know, in the mosque, they will listen to the imam. You know, in the church, they will listen to the priest or the pastor or whatever. But Pan-Africanists, we are not meeting regularly to have a chat amongst ourselves. And we have put aside Thursdays and Saturdays. Thursdays are when we discuss philosophy and ideology in order to get our clarity on what is required philosophically and ideologically. And Saturday are when we meet and just have a conversation around Africa, its unification, its development, its liberation. Just talk amongst ourselves, get to know one another, because talking amongst ourselves is crucial to forming friendships and so on and so that is necessary for the work. As we can see, and we are not meeting enough to talk even about what is needed. So welcome, those of you who have just joined us. We are discussing, it's a general conversation around Africa. So feel free to chip in whenever you want. So, Brother Pigeon, continue what you were saying. You were talking about the UN.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll say that they meet at the UN General Assembly to discuss what? How to continue controlling us and looting us. They have even set up organizations like World Bank, IMF to control us. But we who are being controlled and oppressed, what is our standard? What is our setup? What's our platform for meeting? What's our alternative for our liberation? You see, even those who go to church or mosque read from the history that in the beginning God created, so they know the history. But how much do we spend ourselves to understand the history? How much do we sacrifice as Pan-Africans to save or even donate to the liberation struggle? But we donate to pastors and imams and everywhere. We donate to go to heaven. But we can never give our resources to liberate Africa. We cannot do that. We cannot do that. And we feel like as long as you are capable, as long as you have your basic need, as long as you can eat, you can survive, you can drive big vehicles, you don't care. You don't care about everybody else. You don't care at all. You see? So you think that you, as long as you're comfortable in Africa, you have your money and you can live everything you want, you don't care. You don't care at all. But where do we want to go? As I've said, there's need and importance of meeting. Because even those who meet in those occasions of churches or religious society, from there they create rapport and unity. And you realize that they have their movement, they have their donations, and they do something for the society. But we Pan-Africans don't meet. We don't meet at all. We only need to sacrifice and spend data bundles to meet so that we can also study the African context and actually come up with solutions to liberate ourselves, how we can baptize Africans to liberation. But we don't even think about that. We don't even think the Pan-African baptism. We don't think so. We need actually to go out and look for Pan-Africans to baptize them into Pan-African gospel, you see, so that they can be agents and servants of Pan-Africanism. But we don't do this. So that is where my question is. How ready are we to liberate the continent? How ready are we? How ready are we to ensure that we see Africa is actually liberated? And the question will be, we still actually don't understand what liberation looks like. That's why anybody can pretend to be Pan-African and will go out, vote them, support them, and ensure that they're elected. And at the end of the day, we still suffer. So that is where my worry is, and that's why I want to set up this conversation today. How ready are we? Are we really ready? If we cannot do even the basics, how ready are we? And what must be done in order for us actually to unite and speak of Pan-Africans? We have over 2,000 and 10,000 Pan-African organizations, like religious societies, like I can call those Pan-African organizations like mosques and churches, but with nobody speaking something tangible. They're just there in the names of registrations. So where are we going? And we're creating more and more and more and more and more and more. So where? Are we really creating something for solution? How are we spread the gospel using those thousands of Pan-African organizations? Are we spread the gospel to baptize Africans into Pan-Africans? Those are the key questions. So this is my
thank you. Thank you, Brother Pigeon, for your fired up message. Where are we going? We have lots of organizations, but we are not meeting, we are not discussing, and so on. Brother Victor has his hand up. Victor, yeah, come in, please. Thank you. So we're having a conversation around Africa.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing but, yeah, thank you so much. Brother Brother Comrade has been really fired up today. And that
he's been fired up because he's saying, Brother Victor, that Christians are meeting in the church. Muslims are meeting in the mosque. The ministers of the neo-colonial state, they meet every day in the ministries. Exactly. The UN people are meeting at the UN. Everybody's meeting except Pan-Africanists. This is the problem. We are not meeting enough. That is why Brother Pigeon. And not only that, Victor, not only that, not only that, we don't donate to the cause.
Exactly.
You know, there's no donation from anyone I know. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, to a kind of a Pan-African Solidarity Fund, so we can use that to fight the struggle. There's no donation, and yet the people are donating every day to all kinds of causes except the Pan-African cause. So yeah, Victor, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. So what I always know first is that leaders will always feel that emotional energy. Like when they see citizens jump up to the emotional energy a little bit more, they feel like, yeah, they are submitting to that authority so much, yeah, which is just okay. And as a continent, we know that is really fragmented in terms of its ways of operation, which means there's everybody standing at different points, doing different viewpoints, and that is what has killed the real fundamentalism of what we are really advocating today. Which means there is somebody want to change the mind of people, there's somebody want to change the economy, there's somebody want to change the social aspect, there's somebody want the political aspect of it. Then you realize that at the end of the day, we don't stand at a place where we can see the continent from all its diverse point of view, which means we don't appreciate our diversity, which needs to be the first priority, because there's no way I'm going to change Africa if with me I love technology or politics, but you love another area, which we're like not going to be in the same place. So our leaders have always taken that as a way that they like we make them more of, we submit so much the authority with the level of how we complain in a way that we are not able to create our own system, which means we know that as a continent, even in terms of we've faced we have a lot of systematic challenges in terms of how the neocolonial has really put us in a board. So which means Africa, if you can look at the economic aspect of the continent, we are facing a lot of legacy challenges in terms of how we've evolved to today. For example, I will say that if even today, if you are to analyze the economy of the continent, we graduated from the manufacturing, which we didn't fully put in place, and went to the extractive form of economy, which was like being out of output, which is now lower. Now we are living in the service industry, which means these people are just coming and dumping for us good. Our mothers are there taking all this and reselling, then the money still goes back. So even if you're going to be creating the solidarity fund, it's just okay. But the money still will be flowing from wherever it comes from, because dollar is still printed. The dollar system will never allow Africa to think beyond. So that's why I'm saying that this is a meeting that we need to think beyond the dollar system. Is the only solution, because if you're not going to be thinking that we want to contribute $100 million to change Africa, no, the money is not the issue for the continent. The issue of the continent is that this systematic issue, which means if money is placed, the flow of it is not really going to where it is designated towards, and the people who are at that point are like people who are like, let me say, they only look forward to let me receive this, do this. Like we have got some, let me say some of our people have been into government, that who have been brainwashed to view some things as success, good living standards, yeah, in the like from the aspect, not in the from, which means we are viewing some things in a way that is not corresponding to our cultural, or let me say, more connecting to our spirituality, the inner one, leave alone, yeah, leave alone the normal one, which people go to church, all this. There is an
So
aspect of
Victor,
that.
Victor, what do you have to say about
Okay.
unification,
Okay.
liberation, and development?
Okay. So
Because
what
today's
I'm going to say is very
conversation
simple.
is around this, because there's not enough conversation amongst Africans
Yeah.
on these topics, and yet these are the most important topics for us as Africans.
Okay. First, we know the continent has the best resource so far. That is the human resource. That I've seen even in our table that we have all this population here. So for us to develop as a continent, the first thing is to focus on the human capacity. And this human capacity is so diverse. As much as we are here saying that this is also very important, if somebody is so much afflicted to religiosity to an extent, but if you feel like you are going to impart this to him, feel like you want him to move out of his own world. Yeah. So respecting this and getting a point of engagement or connection is the first priority. But I know that we are able to put this in place because Pan-Africanism unites everything from entertainment, from which forms part of major young people who are the engine of the continent now, which like they
Yeah.
are more into that.
So
From
hold on. So Victor, We're not asking, I don't think you or anybody is asking anyone to leave their comfortable world. But the point is that whatever comfortable world you are living in, it is not connecting with what is important for Africans today, which is that we need to unite, liberate the continent, and develop ourselves so that the welfare of the people is taken care of. That is not happening. So, however comfortable people feel in their world, that comfort is not connecting. Well, what do you say about that, sir?
So that is, let me say, it is not connecting to to what we feel like is the unity, and that is why I'm saying that the first thing is that we have to humanize our economy. Humanizing means connecting everybody to a point of contributing to labor productivity, because according to whereby 100 people are there, but only 20 people are able to do something. Yeah. So humanizing our economy is going to be a very power that is going to be overcoming the dollar. It is true, because even now, if we just humanize our economy, then it is a system that nobody can think outside it, because like we've think outside the context of the dollar system, because we are now prioritizing our human population as the first priority. So this is possible. I'm seeing it from my point of view, that is very possible to do that with Pan-Africanism. Yeah, that there's a point of contact where Pan-Africanism can connect all our diversity. But I don't want to just go deep on how it can, but it is possible. With it is very possible, and it's going to be possible. Yeah.
And if I may ask, Victor, before we move on to someone else who wants to speak. So, yeah, okay. But if we are to humanize the economy by linking us all to the labor movement, but Brother Victor, our labor movements are asleep. The trade unions in Africa are asleep. We don't hear about them. They're not playing any role. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm talking of labor productivity. The movements might be there, but there's a productive level of everybody at least contributing.
They are asleep. Yeah, but Victor, they are asleep.
Okay.
You know, because if the labor unions who are responsible for labor and for productivity, if they are asleep, how are we going to how do we get them to wake up?
Okay, so this is what.
Okay. Because you see, trade unions are an important part of civil society. You see.
Yeah, trade unions are very important part of the society, but the moment you delegate, especially with trade unions that are being run by our miseducated, quote unquote, miseducated economists, like economists who are just miseducated as our people operating these trade unions, realize that the moment you delegate everything to them, it will never change. So what I'm saying is that what we need to really focus on as Pan-Africanism is to create a new frontier of understanding the context of the economy in terms of its diversity, its human capital productivity, in terms of labor, what somebody can be doing, reflecting directly to its personal and communal growth will be because Africa is so big that if we're going to be focusing on this bigger picture of just the map, let me say the map without the people is going to really. That is why our miseducated economists have like taking us in the round, because there are people leading these unions, but at the end of the day, the direction they are taking us towards is not prioritizing the human sovereignty. That is one, and the population capital, which is the best asset, really the most precious asset Africa has for now. Thank you.
Excellent. So let's hear from Brother Mauli, who would like to build on what the others have said. Mauli, let's hear from you, please.
Okay, Kwame. So I am actually taking it from our traditional and cultural aspect of view. In a sense that you realize that much effort was put in right from day one by our predecessors like Kwame Nkrumah and the top ancestors who really fought very hard for us. However, the education about our identity did not really go down deep into our educational system. So you have young ones growing up detached from their culture and identity. So it now makes it very difficult for you to really say, okay, who are you as an African? The problem of we uniting and liberating Africa has to do with an identity. Identity, a very big one that need to be looked at from educational point of view, and also economic point of view, and all manner of sectors. You get it? So
Mm.
yes, we will say okay, Africa needs to unite based on this, based on that, based on that. But first of all, the businessman who is actually bringing goods from China or from USA, what is the reason behind that mentality? Is he trying to bring those goods to make life comfortable over here, so that in a short while educate the young ones to be able to also develop skills in that? You get it? So it all happens with it all starts with our identity, which we need to what, to look at from that point of view. Now, if so, how do we inculcate that into our educational system? You have all these educational leaders that will not even listen to you anytime you try to what, to advance on them to that. Look, our culture and our tradition is what need to be educated to the young ones right from day one, so that they don't see another system. Because our own is about basically cross cultural contamination. That is all I see it to be. If we have our own identity and our own culture and tradition, I think then we will develop Africa towards that African identity way, and that automatically will unite us easily.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for linking. So link that to our unification, liberation, and development.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
Excellent.
yes, if you and I are talking currently, we are speaking English. Okay, we want to unite. Okay, we know English is the common language that we can use to what, to communicate for now, because we have different dialects and different kind of stuff. But how many Africans, the food, the type of food in Nigeria, how do we know about each other properly? Do we really know? I can bet on it that if you take 10% of Africans, they don't even know each other's territory properly. So education is really
Mm.
needed. That's where I'm trying to say that our identity has to be. We have to educate us about our identity first for us to know about
Yeah.
us.
So yeah. So Mali, what I'm
Yes,
hearing in your what you're saying is that there has to be some kind of cultural exchange. Maybe some
exactly.
Kenyans must come to Ghana and stay with us, and then we go
Oh,
to Kenya and stay with them. Kenyans, then we go to Nigeria, stay with Nigerians. Nigerians go to South Africa, stay with South Africans. There has to be some kind of cultural exchange. That's what I'm detecting from what you are saying. Is
not
that?
only that, not only
Mm,
that alone. You
mhm.
see, if I want to do business also with in Kenya, how do I get access to Kenya? The border issue. You get it?
Mhm.
So not only should they come and stay with us and all that stuff, but then because they are, that is already taking place. We
Mm.
have Nigerians and all here in Ghana. We have different kind of.
Yeah, but Mauli, is that being done within in the context of the cultural identity you are referring to, and the
It,
need for us to have to unify the continent, liberate and develop it with this cultural
no,
sensitivity and awareness? Do you think that's
no,
happening?
no. It's not happening on that level. It is not happening on
Because
that level.
for Kenyans to come to Ghana and Ghanaians to go to Kenya, that means there has to be the visa system must allow us to cross borders without paying money and so on, which I think is what you are referring to. If there's going to be
Exactly.
cultural exchange, then that
Mhm.
means that the borders must all be brought down so that we can move freely. Is that the kind of thing you are thinking of?
Exactly. Exactly. But the borders we know is far fetched. We have to start from somewhere, which is by
Mm,
first of all educating ourselves about each other's culture.
mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I take
So
Kenya
so
for, I
what
don't
what,
know how
what
many
I
people.
can yeah, what,
Okay.
what I'm getting from what you are saying, Mauli, is that there has to be some kind of cultural exchange. And Brother Renumi is not here. I'm sure Brother Pigeon is in touch with him. Brother Renumi has been looking at um, this cultural thing, and there was a cultural uh, get together in Nigeria about 25 years ago, I understand. And there's a need for us to revisit that. so that we all meet, all the cultures of Africa meet somewhere, and then we have some kind of interaction and cultural displays and cultural conversation. That cultural. So I'm getting from you that cultural identity, the what Nkrumah called the African personality, and all
Exactly.
its cultural diversity is crucial. That it's not being developed. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying. And
Exactly.
Pan-Africanists are not doing much to
Mhm.
develop it. Is that it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm,
Because I will not lie to you. The reason why, because upon sitting down for a while, I developed a program called Afro Art Gallery. That was to get the young ones, to know much about their culture and all that. And you'll be surprised, senior. Most of these young ones are not even their teachers. The teachers who are even teaching them do not even know about the Africa they find themselves.
mm,
So then, how then
wow.
will you be able to even educate the young ones on that level? And as Brother Pigeon was saying, nobody wants to donate to really push or to advance on this unity process and all those stuff. So
Mm,
yes, cultural identity. If we want to make sure that we do a program on that level, how then do we even fund it at the first place?
mm.
The industries
Now,
that we have,
yeah,
the industries around, do they are they in our
mm,
interest? They will never fund anything that belongs to African or that will lead to Africans or knowing
yeah.
themselves.
Now, brother Mauli, it might interest you to know this. In the fundraising world, when you ask a question, when you say that so and so hasn't given to you, or this group of people haven't given to you, or this person hasn't given to you, the question that we always ask is, did you ask them? Did you ask them for it and they didn't give you? Sometimes people don't give because we don't ask. I am not aware, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not aware of any Pan African Solidarity Fund that has made it its job to go around the continent asking Africans to donate towards Pan Africanism. I am not aware of any. Maybe you here do. I am not aware of any group, any fund, any fundraising mobilization program that is everywhere on the airwaves, in the streets, wherever, saying to Africans, for you to unite, for you to liberate, for you to develop, you have to raise funds. You have to support it with your money. So give. This is a bank account for you to give into. I'm not aware of any. Are you aware of any, Brother Mauli?
Yes, okay, not necessarily African, but
Mm,
so, let's say Volta region in Ghana, for instance. Recently, there is a spillage of water that took place from the Akosobo Dam, and
mm.
that has affected a lot of people over there. They have some fund, but you see, with the kind of fund you are talking about, then it should be now. Which organization is going to handle such funds?
Aha. My question to you is, are you aware of any organization that is leading this mobilization?
I will lie to you. The last time I heard it was about AU, but
Aha. But AU is
that
not
one
a
is
civil
new.
society organization, you see.
Yes.
Now we are talking here about civil society. So we here are civil society. You see, so thank you very much because I'm not aware of any civil society organization that has made it its business to mobilize the continent towards raising money for the Pan-African work. So thank you for confirming that. Let's hear from Sister Ida. Brother Amali, we'll come back to you. It's a conversation. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Sister Ida,
Good
you had
evening,
your hand up
everyone.
earlier. Sister
Yeah, I
Ida,
did.
before
I
you
did.
speak, I hope you are aware that you are the one that instigated this initiative to start the Saturday class on this conversation.
Well, I
Yeah,
want to
because
say,
I say so because if you recall, Sister Ida, a lot of us assume, in fact, I was one of those, assumed that people were talking about unifying and being liberated, unifying and developing. And then we realized that actually that conversation wasn't going on. It doesn't take place.
yep.
So based on what you said, we then started this class. So before you speak, thank you once again for giving us the idea.
I wish you'd stop thanking me because, Somebody
can't
else would
stop.
have done it if I hadn't. So there we go.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Um,
So let's hear
I
from you,
wanted
Sister
to
Ida.
say that this morning I saw a video on South Africa and the xenophobia that is going on in that they don't want people from other countries to be there. They're taking their jobs.
Is it an old video or is it a recent
Sorry,
one?
can you hear me?
Yeah. Is it an old video? Is it a recent one?
I don't really know. The
Yeah,
guy
because the
says he's
xenophobia videos
immigration.
have been circulating for a while, and some of these things happened years ago when they went on a killing spree, or shall I say,
Oh yeah,
a
yeah, but I
rampage,
don't think it's that.
and were attacking Africans,
Yes.
especially those from Southern Africa or Southern Africa or Eastern
Ethiopia.
Africa.
This one was
Yeah,
about Ethiopia.
yeah. This something
But they
happened
weren't
some years
attacking.
ago.
They
But
were
go
just
on. Yeah.
telling them that they should go back to their country and that they have taken up arms to free their country and they should also do the same. And that if they're refugees like they're claiming, they should be asking for refuge in the country next to them. So I did want to send it round because I thought, oh no, this is really. I
Yeah.
mean,
Check how old it is, Sister Ida. It may be an old
can't
video.
check. You just can't really check. But anyhow, but what has really made me put my hand up is I'm not sure it's necessary about people being mobile and being able to go to different places. Maybe we should
The
be
cultural exchange,
fighting
you mean? The cultural exchange.
for a unified currency. Because if you have a unified currency, it doesn't matter where you are. And I think that maybe might sort some of the problems out with, oh, you come from
Unified
somewhere, you're
currency.
after our money. If we've all got the same
currency, yes.
Yes, currency. It is a starting point, which, okay, some people might end up with a lot of money, but that's the case anyhow in this life.
Yeah.
But if we have the same money, it doesn't matter whether we go to Ivory Coast, Nigeria, wherever we are,
With the same money, yeah. The thing is, Ida, let's hear your thought on this. The thing is, currency is is something that governments have to carry out.
Yes.
So what we civil society can do is to promote it, which we do. So
and I think that we should be promoting it more, is what I'm saying, because it's no use saying we want to go to other countries if we can't go as equals. So I think that, to me, the way forward would be fighting for a common currency, and then it doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah, that's a very, very good idea. So currency unification of currencies.
Yes,
I understand that the protocols for a united currency have all been passed. So even if you take West Africa, the West African currency, in terms of the governmental protocols, have already been passed. What is needed, it's implementing it. But to implement it requires structural decisions to be made, and that is what hasn't been made. And so it is a case that perhaps what is needed is for civil society to get to grips with what is needed to make the common currency a reality, because it has already been passed, as I understand it, at the AU level already. It hasn't been implemented.
How long ago was that? And nothing's happened about it.
That's it. It's not happening because civil society, maybe we're asleep. And we're also not doing our part. You see, and that is one of the reasons why we are having this Saturday conversation, that the African civil societies, we continue to form different organizations, but we are not talking. We are not comparing notes. We are not comparing facts. We are not, we're not creating friendships across the nationalities and so on and so forth. And that is also necessary.
Because
so anything else you want to add, Sister?
No, well, I was going to say, if we had a common currency, we could buy from any country we wouldn't have to go to China to buy, because we could buy things of importance from another country in Africa. And so I think it's important that that's something we should be fighting for.
I agree
and
with
not
you.
fighting with not fighting with weapons, but fighting with money's always been. They always say follow the money.
Follow the money.
And
Yeah.
I think money is one of the most important things. Sorry.
Yes, Sisaida, you are right, because at the end of the day, African countries do import from other African countries. Ghana, for instance, imports tomatoes from Burkina Faso and so on. And how are these tomatoes paid for? Do they use an African currency, or do they use dollars? Do they use French francs and so on? So you are spot on. Maybe currency is what we need to be looking at, in addition to the African personality, and in addition to the labor question, the humanization of our economy, as Brother Victor shared with us. Right. So we've heard from Sister Ida. There are more people here we haven't heard from. Let's hear from Sister Shireen. But before that, Brother Pigeon, you want to come in?
Yeah, there's a question I've asked, and I've got some answers that I would like to put forth. Even as we go ahead to still hear from other people, probably they might also touch on these proposals that I've come across. So as we even more make the open conversation, maybe they might touch on it. I have gone to my own online platform, and I've asked, of course, the artificial intelligence, how we can pan-Africanize Africa. And one of the what they say is, I'll just share roughly, very fast, is that one way to promote pan-Africanization of Africa is to promote trade and economic cooperation among African countries. This is by either creating free trade zones, reducing tariffs and other trade barriers, and investing in infrastructure that connect Africa countries to each other. And the way to pan-Africanize Africa is to promote cultural exchange and cooperation. This can be done by supporting African artists and cultural institutions, organizing cultural festivals and events, and encouraging African students to study in other African countries. Then they say that here are some of the specific examples.
Which document are you reading from?
I've asked this question to Google Artificial. Google Artificial Intelligence is called BAD. Artificial Intelligence.
Oh, okay. The chat box. Excellent. Carry on.
Now, I'm not using chat box, but it says here are specific examples on how to how Pan-Africanism can be promoted in Africa.
So trade and cooperation, cultural cooperation. What's the other ones? What are the other ones?
Now they say create Pan-African passport that allow Africans to travel freely within the continent. Then 2, establish a Pan-African currency that can be used in all African countries. Then 3, create a Pan-African army that can be used to defend the continent against external threats. Then 4, establish a Pan-African parliament that can make decisions on behalf of all African countries. Then, this says that this will give Africans a greater voice in global affairs and make it easier for them to coordinate their policies. And then 5, promote the teaching of African languages and cultures in African schools. Then it says that Pan-Africanism is not utopia. It will take time, effort, and goodwill to achieve. However, it's a goal worth striving for because it offers the best hope for the future of Africa. Those are the few answers I've got across, and maybe when we'll be discussing, we can have them also in the conversation as we go along.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So, trade and cooperation, cultural cooperation, which Brother Mauli mentioned, passport, established Pan-African currency, which Sister Ida has mentioned, then Pan-African army, which you have mentioned in the past yourself, Brother Pigeon, Pan-African Parliament, and then teaching African languages in schools, which I think Brother Mauli also touched on. Right, interesting. So thank you, Brother Pigeon. Let's hear from Sister Shireen. Brother Pigeon, just so you know, Sister Doris was here. I think she then went off. Maybe find out how she is, if she needs any support to get back on. Before Sister Shireen comes in, Brother Mauli, you have your hand up. I don't know if it was before or whether it's now. Yeah, please come in. Yeah, Mauli, you had your hand
Yeah,
up.
bro.
Was it from before or now?
It was from before.
Okay. But do you want to come in before Sister Shireen comes in? Are you happy to just
I'm
pause?
happy. I'm happy. I'm happy for now.
Okay. Right. Sister Shireen, what do you think? We are having a conversation around African unification, development, and total liberation.
Okay. Well, I've just come from an event this evening or this afternoon. I'm just gonna get the details of what the organization is. Just give me a
I'm
minute.
sure I'm sure the event is linked with our liberation, unification, development.
Of course, of course. It was an
Yeah, I
it was an
gathered
event.
from yeah, I
Yeah,
gathered
sorry.
from how you started that it's linked with what we are discussing. Well
No,
done.
of course, of course. And I wasn't even gonna, because the thing is, I was like, oh, and I was like, I'm too late. And then I said, Shireen, just go into the group, because I just came
Yeah,
back. Um,
yeah.
but it was an event, it was an official inauguration and launch of sorry, my contact lenses are playing up now. um,
No worries.
the Global Black History, Heritage and Education Center. So, the Embassy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia is a key partner of the Global Black History, Heritage and Education Center. And they are delighted to be a part of this event that happened today, which was the official inauguration and launch of the new Global Black History, Heritage and what was it, Heritage and Education Center. So this is a new center that is going to be opened in Ethiopia, I
Mm.
think in December, and
Shireen, what is it called again?
it's called. I'll send you the flyer, um,
Okay,
but it's called the Global Black History, Heritage and Education Center, and it's an
okay,
organization that's been set up by brother Mohammed, the brother from South London, not Leo Mohammed, the other brother, and also Robin Walker, Sister Maat, and a few other people as well. But it's a centre that's been opened in conjunction with the Ethiopian government, and
okay.
it's to reach out
Is
to
it
the
is it based in Ethiopia or here?
Ethiopia. It's based in
Okay,
Ethiopia, but the inauguration was done at the Ethiopian embassy today. So I just attended
okay.
that visit. But it's a centre for education, heritage, growth, for the diaspora. So it'll be very interesting to hear what communications they have going forward and how they develop their comms to the 50, is it 52? How many states in Africa? Sorry. How many countries in
55,
Africa? 55
55.
countries in Africa, but it is a unifying organization. And they chose Ethiopia, obviously, because of the Battle of Adwa. It hasn't been, it's the only African country that wasn't captured by the Europeans, etc., etc. But it has, I think they've even spoken to the, um, what's it called? The UA, is it? The UA? Somebody
The
mentioned it
AU,
before. The AU,
the
sorry,
AU.
African Union. Yeah, that's African
Yeah.
Union and stuff like that. I just thought I'd add that in because it'll be good to watch what progress they have in the future. And I do
Oh,
know
thank you.
a sister who's involved, and she's very, very focused. She's from Nigeria. She's very focused on all of us coming together. So, in answer to your question, which kind of, because we're talking about organizations and stuff, I think what Sister Ida said about currency and stuff is really, really important because if you look at the Western governments, they use their currency and they tax heavily. And because tax was another thing that I was kind of thinking about even before I joined the call. But as I joined the call, I was thinking taxation, how this country takes a percentage of our wages before it's even landed in our pockets.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then
Before
if
you
there
before
was,
you carry on,
sorry,
Sister Shireen,
yep,
before you carry on, let me just remind Brother Pigeon, you recall that part of our research is to look at taxation. Very, very crucial. taxation. So, Sister Shireen, thanks for raising the question of taxation again. The
Yeah.
taxation is crucial. Thank you. Carry on.
No, it is crucial to the survival of countries or continents or whatever. And if we have a unified currency, that would mean that there would be a unified tax amount that is taken from the populace, from business. Obviously, you'll have those people who avoid tax, but if the policies in tax and the legislation is written in a certain way so that large companies do not exploit Africa, but they're taxed extremely high. They might leave and go somewhere else. They might go to Asia or whatever and whatnot. But that means that they would probably be leaving the what's it called, the stronghold they have on our resources as well. But with taxation, in this country, there's 50, I think there's 67 million people in the UK now, I think, or 65 or something, 65 million.
67, 68, yeah.
Right. And they collect billions of pounds in tax. Am I correct? Because I know you're a mathematician and a economist.
The tax intake is huge, yes. I can check the exact figure for you. We'll carry on, yes.
It's absolutely huge. It's absolutely massive. And if people actually start to understand that it's obviously there's export and there's imports and all this stuff, but taxation is their bread and butter. And this is then divided into different transportation, housing and development, infrastructure, and a small bit creamed off for benefits and people who might need it, whatever and whatnot. But I'm just saying, if we were to introduce a taxation system, even now, if the countries were to do it and it wasn't leaving, the monies wasn't leaving each country, or even tax foreigners heavily like they do here, I think that would be a start. And I think if there's an understanding that there's a threshold of people who can't be taxed, but then there are those who have benefited. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
In fact, Sister Shireen, you have raised a point that has been discussed in the past by some tax specialists.
Okay.
So the federal tax authority in Nigeria, for instance, is something that they have looked at, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
And the point you have raised is that a lot of Africans are trained by Africa. We're educated in Africa. Then when we are educated, then we leave the continent, and then we stop paying tax to the continent. We stop paying tax to our countries.
Yeah.
And then the British government, that had nothing to do with our education and training, then begins to reap the tax that we pay. And the countries that trained us, that breastfed us and made us who we are, even up to whatever age it is, doesn't matter. That country, our mother, does not then benefit from our money. And then is that fair? So that is the point you are raising. I noticed that when Brother Pigeon was listing the things that he listed in terms of what Pan-Africanism means. Brother Pigeon, I don't know if you are hearing me. I noticed that one government was missing from the list. Is that correct, Brother Pigeon? The list that you read out. I don't remember hearing one government for the entire continent. Is that correct?
It was missing.
You see, so they talk about trade and cooperation. They talk about cultural cooperation. They talk about one passport. They talk about one African currency, one African army, one African parliament, teaching African languages, but they never mentioned one continental government.
Yeah.
How are we going to get one passport, one army without one government? I suppose we could, but all the 55 neo-colonial governments must be turned into one continental government, and that is missing. So here we have AI at the global level, which we are using to ask these questions, and even the AI itself is not telling us the truth. But what really needs to happen? So we have to be mindful. Sister Shireen, so thank you for raising the question of taxation. Again, that is something that we, civil society, have to take up. And that raises the question, which is that civil society organizations, what are we really doing? What are we really doing? What are we really? What are civil society organizations really doing in Africa? What are they doing? We know that the churches and the mosques are alive and they are doing a lot. They are meeting, they are raising money for the church, for new buildings, for this, for that, in the mosque and so on. The shrines, no, I'm not so sure about the shrines, the traditional shrines. But what are we Pan-Africans doing in terms of meetings and raising funds and doing what needs to be done, chasing up the currency issue, chasing up the passport? What are we doing? Anyway, so Sister Shireen, thank you very much. The time is 8:08, and we have a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. And let's hear the African anthem. Thank you.
I think I'm going to have to leave, I'm afraid, because my battery's low. Sorry about that.
To rise together to defend our liberty and unity. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa a tree of life. Let us all unite and sing together to uphold the bonds that frame our destiny. Let us dedicate ourselves to fight together for lasting peace and justice on earth. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us all unite and toil together to give the best we have to Africa, the cradle of mankind and fount of culture, our pride and hope and break of dawn. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life.
Thank you. So that's the musical interlude for us. So we're now moving to the next hour, or just under 1 hour. Brother Pigeon, I can't see your face. Are you able to show your face? Or are you busy? Right. So, Brother Pigeon, right. Where's Brother Pigeon? Brother Pigeon, I want to see your face. Yes. So, Brother Pigeon, can you take over for the next session, please?
Okay, thank you very much.
Can you chair the next session? Just so you know, Brother Netononda Blessings has his or her hand up for a while.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you all for coming. Brother Pigeon will now chair the next half of today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Brother Kwame, and thanks for starting us off. Of course, we are still in the conversation to go around. We want to check the 360 angle of how to liberate Africa. What are we doing? What can we do best? And what needs to be done in order to actually attain liberation and the actual unification of Africa? So this is an open space, a free space, and you must actually share your thinking. We share our thinking. So I know Brother Nathan Nonda is actually a strong follower of economic freedom fighters of South Africa. I really want him to confirm whether there is any official within the economic freedom fighters of South Africa, And what does he see, of course, being a supporter of our Economic Freedom Party of South Africa? What does he really think about this struggle of liberation and unification of Africa, and what is his personal perception, and maybe what is EFF trying to do, if in case he's aware of that? So, Brother Nathanonda, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello.
We can hear you, but I don't know where the background noise is coming from.
Okay. Thank you very much. Speaking here is Natononda Blessing from South Africa, EFF member of South Africa. So I was listening here to other leaders regarding the unity of Africa. So when I see here in Africa, it is possible to have a United States of Africa with one currency, with one president, with one parliament. If the African Union, they can start by working on changing the currency to be a one currency in Africa. That union, they're just sitting there for nothing. They're just those who are attending the African Union meetings. They're just wasting the money for nothing. Because since its formation, there's no changes in Africa. They are just talking, but they're not taking actions. They were talking, no, we must change, we must use a one currency since its formation. So the EFF South Africa, they're trying by all means to make sure that we are having a United States of Africa by forming the EFF in other countries. We've got EFF Zimbabwe, EFF Botswana, EFF Swaziland, EFF Namibia, where in Namibia we have got 2 seats in parliament. We have got EFF in Uganda, EFF in Gambia, like that. We have got EFF in different countries in Africa. So the EFF, they're trying by all means to make sure that we have got a United States of Africa. Then leaders, when the EFF they're doing, they're here in the constitution of the EFF, there is a policy of foreigners. So that policy sometimes I can say is affecting us. We as the ground forces, when we be busy recruiting, that policy is affecting the EFF South Africa. But we said, no, we can't just listen to the people. We must continue with our policy of foreigners, where we are saying that all people from Africa are welcome in South Africa. When the EFF take over the government next year, we're going to make sure that there won't be a borders here in Africa. So it's like that is the plan of the EFF South Africa, to make sure that next year when we are taking over government, must make sure that there's no borders in South Africa. All borders must be cancelled. So we are working on that to make sure that there must be a United States of Africa with one currency. We want an Africa that will have its own health organization. Because if you check, we have got a World Health Organization. That organization is captured by America. If you check during the COVID, Madagascar, they got some medicine that will, or some vaccine that can be used for COVID at that time. So that organization, they refused to approve that vaccine because the vaccine is from Africa. So just imagine if we were having an African Health Organization, they were going to approve that vaccine. So we want a continent with one thing. If we are saying we must have one education system, we must have it in all countries in Africa. If we are saying we want a one military, we must have a one military in all countries in Africa. So to build Africa is very much simple. We must this union called African Union, they must play their role as a union that was formed with the aim of uniting Africa. But now they're not uniting Africa, they are dividing. Because even if you check leaders, you will hear no, in DRC they are fighting. No, it's not the people of DRC who are fighting. There are funders who are giving those people money to fight, because those people, they want to colonize Africa again. So that is why you can say, oh, in DRC they are fighting for mines, in Swaziland they are fighting for mines. It's not people of Swaziland or DRC. There are people from Europe who are funding those people to go and fight for a particular property that they want to own. So they want to take Africa by backdoor. So leaders, this education or this thing that we are doing now is we are educating ourselves. So we can't just educate ourselves without spreading the education to other African leaders. We must have a way forward where we can say now we talk, uh, is the time for actions. So my suggestion is that, can we hear some way forward about uniting the Africa, where we can have a United States of Africa? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, comrade, for that point. My question to you before you leave is, by trying to have EFF in Uganda, EFF in Zimbabwe, EFF in Botswana, how will you think this will make now Africa to be one country? Because this is like also trying to recognize and accept the small balkanized fragmentation of different countries in Africa, and actually trying to promote EFF in each single country. So at which point would you think of that you, EFF, or as leadership, will merge those countries to be one country? Because what you need is not EFF or ATP in different countries. What you need is one Africa and one nation. So how do you think you reach a point whereby this EFF in Uganda, EFF in whatever, even as you try to create it, how will you think towards making Africa one, or do you think that you still want to have 54 Africans with EFF president and EFF politicians? What's your strategy towards this? Just that's the last question.
Okay, thank you for your question, my leader. Here when we are, I think here we are doing so. Ne? In the EFF, we believe in socialism. Because if you check, most of the government in our countries is capitalism, communism, like that. So in the EFF, we believe in socialism. That's the first reason that makes us to go in other countries to launch the EFF. Firstly, in Africa, there must be a socialism than capitalism. We must share as an African. So when we are having an EFF Zimbabwe, Uganda, like that, those EFF in Zimbabwe, Uganda, like that, when they are participating in the elections, they are going to take government. In Namibia, the EFF Namibia, they are having 2 seats in parliament. So there will be an election in Namibia soon. Imagine if they're going to take the government in Namibia. It means that they're going to use a same thing that we want to use in South Africa. We are believing in socialism. There must be a socialism government in Namibia. They will be sharing. It means that we are going to start with a socialism government. If the EFF in South Africa take over the government next year, we are going to start with a socialism government where we will be sharing with our brothers and sisters in Africa. That's the reason that makes us to go and launch the EFF in different countries. We want a socialism government in Africa and in all countries. If we can manage to have an EFF in all African countries, just imagine those EFFs in those countries take over the government, country by country. It means that we are going to have a socialism government in Africa. Even though we can't manage to have an EFF in all African countries, but in other countries, we can manage to have an active EFF in those countries like Liberia, South Africa, and Namibia. In those three countries, we have got an active EFF. They are operating very well. So it's our strategy, it's our plan. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm now switching the gears to the other side, and I'll start by I'll point the person I'll go to, but let me take it back again. As we've known that we have the good plans for Africa unification, but the question is, even as we talk of having the united common currency, we talk of the common languages and even teaching our students about our languages and everything else. Can this actually work in these current setups in Africa? Do our leaders who are the puppets of the West will allow this? And if they will not allow this, how do we want to do it in order to ensure that what we envision, like the common currency, common education system for African cultures and everything else, will be implemented? How are we going to do this? How do you think you're going to convince these Pan-African puppet leaders of the West in Africa to adapt and take in our consideration? Or what alternative do you think is best and can work for us? And this question, I'll take it to Sister Shola. Sister Shola, can you kindly help us give some feedback in regards to that question? Then I'll go to another comment. Sister Shola?
Before Sister Shola speaks, can I come in, Brother P, if you don't mind me intervening?
Okay.
So it may be Sister Shola has her own views on what needs to be done. So give her a chance to speak her own view before responding to what Brother Neto Nonda had to say.
Yeah, she's sharing her thinking. She must know that these are her own thinking. And it's not, she cannot be crucified for that.
Thank you.
Sister Shola?
Yeah. I think you kind of answered that question, Brother Pigeon. Because how can you have socialism across Africa? That is like putting something in a box, which we do not need. So that's all I think I can add to it. So when you go around asking our other opinions, I'll come in at that point. Thank you.
When you mean we don't need, what do you try to mean? We don't need socialism, or what do you think by saying we don't need? You don't need it.
Me.
For me personally, it's like saying somebody should be eating one particular food. All people in even if you're looking at a country, you cannot ask everybody to eat one particular food. There has to be diversity, whether democracy, whether socialism, whether communism. So how do these people come together? Which is why we're here trying to dissect what Nkrumah had in mind. So that is what I would like to add to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Sister Shola. Of course, it appears like we've been eating capitalism as a diet for Africa for so long, and we may not be finding the way forward. But thank you for that input. My question was to you, Sister Shola, before you leave, is that all these good things we are talking about, Africa unification, currencies, language, and everything else, there are things that I believe our African leaders who are currently political leaders are aware of. What do you think has made them not to do and actually implement what you're saying, and what action can you take? To your side, what should be the right way forward to implement this? Because it's not that they're not aware of this. They're aware of the need for us to have culture and everything else, common languages, teaching our cultural languages, and integrating Africa and having one African government. But it seems they have failed to do this. What do you think is the best alternative to achieve this? What do you think can be the possible alternative?
It is said that he who wears a crown knows where it hurts them. So as leaders, even if you are leading 5 people, you know how difficult it is to get all these 5 people or lead them in an effective way. You're looking at a structure for over 55 countries. It would need a lot of work, and I do not think African leaders are ready to do that work. So we could, talk all we want, share all the ideas we want, but having a structure in place takes years, takes dedicated leaders. And personally, from my opinion, there is a lot more education that needs to be done, which is why we are here, trying to study and find out ways to do that education. So I think I just want to add what my piece is. I know, Brother Pigeon, you're doing some research on, I'm not sure exactly, I just read pieces and pieces here and there. But in Africa, we have universities and we have Department of Philosophy. My suggestion is let's create a system whereby this in that department, in those departments, can be given an opportunity to delve into the ideologies that we have. Is it for Nkrumah? For this class, I think it should be for Nkrumah. What are their views? What are their opinions? Let them write papers as this body, rather than, we can come in, say somebody writes, give them an opportunity, a competition, write, and then we grade it in here in class, in this place. And then we can begin to get ideas and then begin to educate the grassroots. Because one assumption we have is that the grassroots do not know what is going on. They do know what is going on. They sit back and watch. And if people get to them before the so-called educated people, then it's done. So that is what I wanted to add to the conversation. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for that, Sister Shola. Of course, you've raised a very pertinent point that we are considering as a class. I know I've shared this before, that actually we need to find a way on how we will actually break down consciousness in a more explained way, to be more of like a course where somebody can go online, take that course of consciousness in a broken down and simplified way, that they can be able to understand and digest it properly. Then over a period of time, as they go through that course, just the same way they go for free online courses all over, just the same way they go for other courses all over. But this consciousness, of course, as a philosophy and ideology, can be like an educational course, a short online course, where somebody can go through and see how we can make it available, so that after they go through this, they can be able to master and get the understanding. Because it goes deep to give us the tools that are necessary. But another thing you said, yes, there's a need for us to start thinking on how we do write-ups and connect with the think tanks, of course, the academia, to ensure that we can start putting on or can front this actually these pieces of ideas and philosophy that we study, and let's have also like a debate. You see, like when we have I know there's a university in UK that has the debate, so that we can start pushing for this. And we started by having some virtual conferences that brings together everybody else to discuss this, and not only to discuss, to recommend the best way forward. So we are trying, and will actually accept any ideas that you have, and you can share with us later via text so that you can incorporate them. But what we must understand, that the masses are the only weapon we have towards winning the liberation of Africa. And this Nkrumah said very well. That's why we talk of even of a mass party or a vanguard party. Sankara talked of the same mass education. There's a need for us to actually win. Our potential are the masses. And if we make the masses to be aware of what to do and conscious the same way we are, or the same way we are trying to be conscious, then we will win the war. Because you see, Steve Biko said that the greatest weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And if you speak to the conscience of the oppressed and actually liberate them from mental slavery, then you have a tool in your hand. But as long as we are here with so many people who are not that conscious to the level where we are, then we are just few soldiers thinking that we need an army, or we only need an army of fear or fearful people. And fear controls us, and fear is what has put us to where we are. So thank you, Sister Shola, for that. And we are looking forward towards building actually good propositions, including what we are saying about this Pan-African Parliament, Pan-African currency. We as a class can have a big research about it and put forward these suggestions to either AU in any African country for ratification. But one thing you've said again, these are Pan-African, these are puppets of the West, and therefore it may be very hard for us actually to penetrate them. But we must try all our best. I think even as we build the next generation of leaders, we must try to convince the current leadership to adapt. And if they don't adapt, we must prepare the next leadership that can be able to replace them and adapt to what we want. So I would like to go back to Brother. But before I go to Brother Victor, I see Sister Serena. I want to go to Sister Serena first, and I'll go back to Brother Victor. I know you've raised up your hand, but kindly not your point. But I want to go to Sister Serena. And my question to Sister Serena will be very simple. Yes, as we have said before, we have thousands of Pan-African organizations, thousands coming up daily. But even in thousands of churches and mosques we have today, they worship every Sunday, they preach the gospel, they build the churches, they even build the hospitals, they give tithes, and they give offerings. Why don't we have the Pan-African churches? Like the Pan-African churches that its work, or not in terms of the building of churches, but Pan-African institutions that their work is purely to preach the Pan-African gospel. And that Pan-Africans can donate what they have, can attend to meetings like this one now we are calling for. But this is not happening. Does it mean that the Pan-African gospel has not reached to the gospel of the world of heaven, or the gospel of God and Jesus, or the gospel of Muslims? What needs to be done to ensure that we can elevate this Pan-African message to a standard that everybody can be aware of it and everybody can come to that church of Pan-Africanism in terms of not church of a building, but the gospel, and spread Pan-Africanism and understand Pan-Africanism the same way they understand the story of Abraham and the story of everybody else, and use it for the liberation. Sister Sharon, what do you think should be done?
We need to make the education of Pan-Africanism compulsory in some way. So, and also, these organizations are trying to stay afloat.
I would like to chip in. I learned some time ago that Mugabe donated cows to support the AU. Even a lot of presidents do that with Gaddafi and co. Now, to really spearhead this unification in Africa here, the only organization that is empowered to do that is the AU. So if the AU is not sponsoring the civil society organization to be able to do their work, then what are the civil society organizations also doing to make sure they hold AU responsible for what they are supposed to be doing?
Brother Mauli, did you say that Mugabe donated cows? Cows, the animals, or which cows?
Cow animals, yes, to help the AU.
To help the AU do what?
Well, that's what I heard. I just said it
Well, we need scientific facts. We do not need hearsay.
Okay. Well, that was
Sister Sharon, can you proceed?
Yeah. And like as I was just trying to say, things that are put in place so that infighting doesn't happen and destroy the whole project, because this is normally what happens, and as why we're not as progressive as we can be. Because other races will sit around the table, they might hate each other, but they'll have an agenda, they'll have certain points that are discussed, they'll make sure there are actions to those for the next meeting, etc., etc., etc. Everybody leaves knowing what they're doing and what the memo is. And as much as they might hate each other, there's still decisions that are made to progress certain things. And I think that we just get tied up emotionally, and there's a lot of healing that needs to be done.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, Sister Sharon. Of course, you've mentioned two things that I want us actually not to lose. One is you talk of the Pan-African education, and Brother Kwame has touched on it. But first thing is, have you even thought of drafting the Pan-African curriculum? Because it must start from there. We're sitting together to agree on a Pan-African curriculum for education, you see? And like you see, when we are young, we have in primary religious education, geography, and history. But actually, as you're saying, the Pan-African education must touch on all aspects. That curriculum must touch on all aspects of our livelihood and our living, you see. So there is, first of all, that we must note the need to come up with Pan-African education curriculum. Then, now push for its adoption for all schools. And what you have said, secondly, is the method. You've said, of course, Christianity was forced on us. And it seems if you are going to maybe spoon or whatever spoon feed Africans or call them politely to come to accept Pan-Africanism, it may take us centuries and years. But I don't think that it might even take us centuries and years. It's about, have we really done much to reach out to them? Have we really done much to tell them what the gospel is all about? You see? Because this gospel of Pan-Africanism, I don't think it can receive serious rejection like the Christianity and Islam that was put on Africans. It can be welcomed. But another thing now tied to this is, do we have the resources to facilitate such mass consciousness, mass awareness, or even reaching out to the people? Because one thing that lacks is, we might, like in churches, we contribute to pastors every day to live their good life, but we don't even ask them how much or how do they use that. But we believe that if we give them, we are contributing to the service of God. How about if we do the same to support these fellow Pan-Africans who will be like the pastors of Pan-Africanism, who can walk out to reach out and preach this gospel? Because at the end of the day, there must be people must be out there physically to walk around and try to preach this. So that is also the disconnect. So before we move to the either approving whether it should be forcefully, we must first of all do the best we can to first of all make people aware of this message. And I want to ask this at this particular moment. I want to bring it to Brother Victor, who leads African Digital Inclusion Alliance. And we have given them this platform sometimes back to use this platform to teach their conference. They were having virtual conference and African Digital Alliance. And my question to Brother Victor will be very clear. In your African Digital Alliance or in African digitization, do you see a space where that digital instrument we have can help us reach out in the process of mass education? And how can it be designed and how can it actually help us reach out so that we see how we can even go out? Because even when you ask for resources, even if you ask for resources, it must be resources oriented to action. So how is the digital space that is coming in, that many people are embracing today, can actually help us also reach out this education as a supplement to our educational curriculums? You see, that's what I'm wanting to build the Pan-African education. How can the digital come in and help us?
Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so much. That name is so difficult, but thank you. Yes. So the first thing I will say that we don't have a sovereignty in the future when we are not able to control the technology in the continent. Is a reality that we must get to know. That even now the continent itself, we have less than 1% of the data controlling the continent. That means that even now, if you look at the terms and conditions of the Zoom itself that we are using now, it means that the data itself, they have got the right to publish it anywhere. So all this means that there is a lot of digital sovereignty issues that are not just going to be hurting us as a people, they're going to be hurting our children in the future. So the Alliance of the Digital Inclusion majorly focuses on harnessing the potential of Africa in terms of the human capital. That is the first focus. In fact, I always say that we are like creating a system of productive performance which lacks in the continent technology, because we have a lot of fragmentation in approach to technology, which means people are coming with product and services that are only oriented on the side of money and profits, which all the tech companies from the US are coming to do in the continent. So realize that at the end of the day, they look at us as not a people, but look at us as products who are going to be more of increasing their value chain. And this is bad because our sovereignty is getting lost and lost. And then there are two things that our continent has never gone through full set of industrialization, which means we started the industry, but because of how the world is, we couldn't get that fully formed. So even if I'm is about it.
Brother Victor, just let you know we cannot hear you. Maybe you have your network issues. Try to mute or unmute yourself, then you come back to see if we can hear you. Meanwhile, it's trying to bring a very serious concept that you don't have digital sovereignty. And that even if you
Yeah.
read today, there's a
Where
very
is he?
important
Where
thing.
is Brother Pigeon? Where is Brother Victor connecting from?
No, he's from Kenya.
Where's
Yeah,
he?
I know him. He's from Kenya. He's a friend here.
Kenya. Okay.
Yeah, he's a friend. We
Thank
know
you.
each other. But he's bringing a very important point: digital sovereignty. Because even if you collect the data, where are you going to pack it from? In their own
Yeah,
platform.
he's off, brother. So we
I know,
might have to
I know,
call him.
okay, I know you come in. So we have 10 minutes or 9 minutes. Brother Kwame, I want you to come in. Actually, to touch on some few points you've actually been noting, but also to give you a concept as we are almost winding the session. Because we are almost 9 minutes too.
Well, all I would say is that um, a lot of things have come up in terms of what we can do. There is already something that you had already started looking into, which is to hold a Pan-African Women's Conference so that we can hear for our women. Sashola is here, Sashirin is here. I hope they can get in touch with you, so we see how we can get a women's conference going. The other thing that has come up is that we need Pan-African platforms for meetings. Maybe that's something we need to look at. Maybe we need to um, contact all Pan-African organizations and say, look, we all need to come together and talk. And maybe that's something we should do. Something also has come up is cultural exchanges, which some have premised on a single currency. Something that has come up also is a need for an African Leaders Forum. Maybe we need to to call an African Leaders Forum. Write to all the presidents, say we need you to come to us. We want to ask you questions. We want to talk to you as citizens of Africa. We want to talk to you. Come to this forum and speak to us. We want all of you 55 to come to talk to us, because you are either elected by us or you took our power forcefully or whatever. But you must talk to us. What has also come up is a need for mass mobilization, mass education. That maybe the people are waiting for the educated people to come and talk to them. Maybe the people are waiting for those who have money to come and talk to them. Maybe the people are waiting for the politicians or whoever. Maybe the people are waiting for the Pan-Africanists to come to them and have a conversation with them, which is not happening. So there's a need for mass education, public discussions. Another thing that has come up is maybe we need to write departments of organizations, of universities, and ask them to tell us what is it they are saying about the philosophy for uniting the continent. Oh, we have a lot of universities on the continent. What are they doing? We don't know what they are doing. And how is it that what they are doing is impacting us? And so on and so forth. And then finally, there were two things so far also have come up. The Pan-African education curriculum, and it has to be written. And this goes also with the unification. We can't just say let's unify. If we're going to unify, there has to be a unification constitution. That means African constitutional experts must sit down and craft a unification constitution, which we will then promote and get all Africans to meet and then agree on it. Then the Pan-African education curriculum, which Sister Shino also mentioned, that also came up. And then also came up is the African digital inclusion. And then also finally, the need for the African personality, cultural education, cultural things to be promoted. So a lot of things have come up in this discussion. A lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. And as you noted them, I think we will have to, as a class team, we'll have to have pointers on actions and we see how we can follow up towards having something for that. And maybe we can call maybe a conference, as you've said, because we have Zoom here. We've done some before. We can call for a conference to discuss some few, one or even to discuss a concept within that. We can make them as a virtual conference either on a monthly basis. Call all Pan-African organizations into one forum. Let's discuss this and build up these points to a proper point. Then we can now see how we can have a collective front of approach towards formal writings and even formal documentation as we push it forward. Because I think that will be the best way forward, that we take up this to more of a bigger concept of bringing all the necessary available of those who are willing to come, Pan-African, discuss more on specific topics. and try to see how we can have a follow-up writings from the experts and academia here to build it into a conceptualized context point so that we can see how we can push it. Because as you said, yes, this is a class for thoughtful action. We are not only thinking, but we are thinking towards action. So all the thinking and action is our responsibility. We are not only here to think, but also to see that our thinking can be actualized to action. And all this you're capable of doing, just if you can bring together all the necessary Pan-Africans and see how we can scale this, including those Pan-African Solidarity Fund, as you're saying, yes, we need to facilitate some people will sit down and do this. So we can still raise funds along those points, if it is facilitation for curriculum, which I think is very important. But before I talk too much, our time is almost about. Sister Sherin is having her hand up, and I'll give Brother Victor also maybe a minute after Sister Sherin. So, Sister Sherin.
Okay, I won't keep very long. But I was going to say, in terms of a Pan-Africanist curriculum, there are Pan-Africanist educators who have syllabuses, who have a standardized curriculum that can be tapped into. So maybe it might be useful to call those professional educators who have schools already to come together and at least widen the understanding of how this curriculum can be taught, because there would obviously have to be teacher training and all types of stuff, and also there would also have to be resource, money, willingness, etc. But there are educators out there who have devised their curriculum. So as I say, it would be very, very useful to tap into those to see how they are delivered, and then also to localize the curriculum as well, so that young people or children are educated about the country that they're in, and also allowing that to branch out to not only African information on the continent, but global issues as well, and for it to include economics, for it to include socialism, or sociology, should I say, technology, etc. There's a whole load of stuff that can go in it as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And I think you've raised it very correct. We can build on something. So probably in a mega conference, we are thinking of such people, professors or academics or academia class that has worked on this. We can call upon them to do their presentation as part of speakers, then build up from there. And then from there, we can form a committee, maybe a technical committee now that can go into a system to ensure that these things are actually implemented. I've seen Brother Victor said that he can also be willing to present a paper on how we can harmonize the digital space inwards or towards helping also Africa on this. Brother Victor, is that what you said?
No, brother, that is not specifically that is specifically on economy. Let me say I'm always a socioeconomic develop. Like I love socioeconomic development. So specifically on economic level, on technology is not there.
Okay, is it a social economic or capitalist economic? Because it also have to go to be more of Pan-Africanized economics.
Yeah, is a Pan-Africanized concept which that does not depend on any of the mainstream concept of governance like capitalism, socialism.
Okay, yeah. Okay. What you can do for us a small brief paper on that, just a page on what you want to do, and probably share with me. Then I'll share with Brother Kwame, then you see how we can build up also to a conference. Because I think we need to scale up to bigger conferences where we can bring everybody on board. With these, I'll hand it over back to Brother Kwame so that we can see.
Sorry, and also Brother Pigeon, just to let Brother Kwame know that I would be very interested in a women's conference, or just to let you all know as well that I'd be interested in a women's conference.
Thank you for that, Sister Sharon. The problem is that I'd shared this concept in the group sometimes back, and of course I tagged you and I tagged along all women in our class to think about this Pan-African Women Conference. But what happened is that either there was a lack of somebody who was willing to spearhead it to bring the women together. Because what you are looking for is, first of all, the women of the CSD class to sit down and think like they can own the conference. Like the women of CSD are trying to call upon, they're all women from different aspects, and even come up with what they think should be the topics to be discussed. When they can actually reach out to maybe potential women who might they want to include as speakers, then they run it so that you can also hear their concept in terms of even all this Pan-African curriculum and everything else. So we like somebody who could be the leading point, and if you can be willing to be the leading point to coordinate this, then actually that's what you're looking for. First of all is that team should sit down and maybe see who can we reach to and what can we put in that conversation. Then we'll offer our Zoom accounts on any day that you propose. Then we'll send the poster around the continent and see who can come in. But we also invite some few people like maybe the women speakers, because we want to have all this conversation and see what do the women think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Okay,
for that.
thank
I'll
you.
get in touch after this so that we see how we can build it up.
Okay. I know time is passing, so thank you, Brother Pigeon.
Thank you very much. Brother, coming back to you.
Yeah, just to say thank you, Brother Pigeon, for chairing the second session. Thank you very much. Just so everybody also knows, we are happy other people to chair parts of this meeting. It shouldn't just be myself or Brother Pigeon. I chair the Thursday meetings mostly, and so we want more of us to come forward and chair. So thank you very much, Brother Pigeon, and thank you all for coming. We've come to the end of today's session. Can you believe it? 2 hours is gone already. Wow. So thank you for coming, and yeah, so